Thanks so much for having me. And I'm really excited to talk about fractional leadership. I think it's an important piece of not only the ways that companies can go about growing, but also the way that individuals, especially leaders who have certain expertise, can offer our services to companies in a way that's different than a full-time, typical employee-employer relationship. Fractional is kind of an interesting term. I look at it two different ways. One is where, as a fractional leader, I can be brought in my case, as a chief marketing officer on a fractional basis. And sometimes that's done where I'm taking on the full CMO suite of services for a period of time. That's the fractional part. Or where I'm coming in as a fractional marketing leader and I'm focused on a specific aspect of what the company needs at that period of time. Sometimes that could be rebranding the company. Sometimes that could be a whole new way of going to market for a new division or a new audience. And the best part about it is that it's very focused and it's very clear in terms of the objectives that are trying to be accomplished. So traditional outsourcing, some, especially in the marketing community, might call it freelancers. Sometimes folks are looked at as consultants. I think the difference that really distinguishes those two roles, which of course are important also and part of the economy, from fractional, is that I, as a fractional leader coming into an organization, dedicate my time. Sometimes that's a percentage of my time. Sometimes that's all of my time for a specific initiative. But really the biggest difference is I'm seen as part of the team and part of the leadership team. And so I'm often included in meetings and different ways of trying to help the organization grow that would be different than an hourly based freelancer or consultant. I think there's a few different trends going on where fractional leadership is becoming more and more beneficial. Again, you have to look at it from both the company side and from the leader's individual side. From the company side, there's so much need for growth at a hyper, not only focused, but also fast pace, where you don't necessarily have the time. It takes a lot of time to hire a senior leader. Sometimes those reviews and searches can take 3 or 4 months. And as I talk to one of my current companies that I'm working as a fractional leader for, by the time you go and find that full-time employee, we'll be finished with the project. And so it gives the company an opportunity to move very fast. And it gives the individual also an opportunity to see if this is a good fit for me as a leader inside of the company. And one of the benefits of fractional leadership, and of course, everybody has a different approach to this, is it could be an opportunity to see if it is a good fit. I have a technique that I call try it on. And it's as simple as that. It's working together. It's seeing if it's a good fit. At the end of the assignment, it could be that we move forward and either extend the relationship, or in my career, a couple of times, the relationship has turned to a full-time role that made sense. And we might not have gotten there if we hadn't had the fractional experience first. So I see fractional leadership being an opportunity for several different kinds of companies. So direct to consumer companies, and aside from D2C, which obviously the IAB has done a great job of recognizing high growth companies that are moving quickly and leaders in the D2C space. There's also an opportunity for different startups that could be in the B2B space, could be in the ad tech space. I was the first head of marketing for DoubleClick and learned a lot about the ad tech community, which would be very beneficial to certain ad tech companies. And I've also worked in lots of different industries, whether it was starting as a fractional CMO and then going to full-time for a subscription music service called eMusic, as well as legacy companies. I started in a fractional role for the BMW Group, working on specific partnerships and launch programs, eventually becoming a fractional launch manager for BMW. And years later, was hired to become a full-time employee for BMW Group, managing all marketing and advertising for Mini Cooper in North America. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for companies, not only of different sizes and in different sectors, but also there are different moments in time where a company needs a certain expertise in a very focused way. And fractional leadership is a great way to accomplish a goal. I think, companies who are considering fractional leadership versus full-time, you want to try and take a look at, again, the mission that you're trying to accomplish and the timing for that mission. There's opportunities, again, to bring people in who have a certain expertise that you might not be able to hire on a full-time basis, whether it's for reasons of budgets and full-time salaries that maybe don't fit with the experts' full-time requirements, but also for periods of time, especially, say, for example, a rebrand of a company or launching a new brand, that's only going to happen for a specific period, and you kind of need that expertise when you need it. Perhaps then afterwards, and I've worked in this capacity, you might be shifting into a different area of marketing once that brand is established or reestablished, and want to move more toward marketers who have different expertise, whether it's in performance or different areas that would be better suited for another fractional role or a full-time role. So I think, when companies are trying to, again, figure out what they need to accomplish and who the right people are, you can go down a couple of different paths. The great thing about fractional leadership is to make sure that you're trying to be very clear on what the mission is at hand, the objectives are for the task. As a fractional leader, it's much better to focus on goals and focused on, a period of trying to accomplish certain things instead of a traditional, say, freelancer or consultant where you're kind of on the clock and, charging by the hour. The beauty of the fractional model, the way I look at it is, I'm incentivized to try and help companies accomplish their goals as opposed to trying to help them, do things and have it take a certain amount of time. And so when companies are searching for fractional leaders, I think you obviously want to look, at people who have accomplished similar goals. But sometimes companies get too focused on trying to find maybe someone specifically from one of their competitors or, somebody who has done something exactly like that in the industry. I would encourage companies to kind of look a little bit broader. And the beauty of most fractional leaders is that, we have years of experience in different areas, and we can kind of connect the dots between one experience and another, which, again, most companies, when I went into BMW Group, I'd never worked in the car industry before, or I hadn't worked in the music industry before going to eMusic. And I was very upfront about that. But when we talked about the goals that needed to be accomplished, those kind of initiatives have been things that I've had experience doing. And so oftentimes the smart companies will say, well, listen, we have people already on our team who have experience in automotive or music, or I recently worked for as a fractional CMO for a grocery delivery service and hadn't worked in that space before. But what's really interesting about the sector is it's still about acquiring new customers, building a brand, retaining customers, making sure that you're stimulating usage and growth and getting friends to share with their friends. And those kind of experiences, even coming from another sector, can add a lot of new expertise and potentially unlock possibilities that people inside the company wouldn't have thought about. So as a fractional leader, there's an opportunity to, first of all, work with lots of different kinds of companies in different sectors, and also work with a lot of different kinds of people. And for me, at this stage in my career, where I've worked in ad tech, I've worked on the agency side, I've worked on big companies like BMW Group on the consumer product side for different companies. I want to keep learning. I want to keep growing. I want to keep trying to challenge myself in ways that are going to not only make me better at my, different ways of going about marketing and so forth, but also as a leader. And trying to accomplish new things gives me kind of an enthusiastic way of approaching each situation. I think the other benefit, for companies is that they can try before they buy and have an opportunity to see if it's a good fit for the company, and maybe give even a little bit of insight in terms of, what else the team needs to complement different skills and different resources. And that can help both for the project, the task at hand, as well as for an ongoing basis. Sometimes a fractional leader like myself will go into a company full-time. And sometimes we realize that was a great initiative, hopefully mission accomplished, and time to move forward with other members of the team. I do think that companies need to be thoughtful, obviously, from an HR perspective. Years ago, I set up Sherpa Marketing, Inc. So I incorporated my company to help with these fractional situations and allowing the companies to hire my company, not necessarily hiring an individual, which could have HR issues if it's done in the wrong way. So companies do need to be aware of that. And the one other thing I'll say is, I think this is a benefit for the companies and for me. Part of being a fractional leader is the ability to tell the truth, and be candid and be upfront and give your obviously educated opinion, but not try to spend a lot of time doing things where you're stuck in a situation and you're trying to hold on to your job. And to be honest, I've been in situations, and I'm sure we all have, where individuals are maybe holding back and not sharing what they really think, because they don't want to, get a boss upset or turn a situation, into some political situation where they don't get promoted or something. I think as a fractional leader, you have the ability to really be candid and give your fair and honest opinion. And of course, that's not always the correct opinion, but it's unguarded and unedited. And I often work with founders and CEOs, and I tell them, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to call it like I see it. And part of that is very refreshing because, again, in most companies, a lot of people are simply trying to hold on to their jobs. And with fractional leadership, you have an ability to focus on the task at hand and try and help everybody succeed in a way where I've been told time and time again from people, thank you so much for saying that and for sharing it that way. We've wanted to say that for a long time, but we didn't feel comfortable doing it. And I think part of the opportunity for companies to hire fractional leaders and for fractional leaders coming into companies, you can really break through a lot of normal BS and move right to the solution that is going to be best for the company. I think fractional leadership is going to continue to grow. You know, there's a trend being talked about right now, and I think COVID certainly stimulated the trend of people talking about the Great Resignation. And there's a lot of people who, you know, simply aren't interested at this time in a full-time job, you know, whether that's because they don't want to go back to an office or they recognize the, you know, ability to try different things in their life. And so I think for companies who want to make sure that obviously there are certain people that you kind of want to have in day-to-day roles, and then there are certain experts that you want to bring in on a fractional basis to try and either stimulate growth in a new way, to try and bring a perspective that isn't core to the team already, or try to basically see something and then implement that program in a way where the company can break past its competitors. Because what I found is a lot of companies, you know, while they say they want new ideas and new ways of thinking, a lot of companies are kind of, you know, from the full-time recruiting basis, looking at people who have done that specific thing for a competitor or, you know, in the sector only. And the beauty about fractional leadership is you can have the best of both worlds. You can have those people on your team who have the sector expertise, and then you can bring in other people who have experiences that might help you break past your competitors even faster.